Welcome everybody to Go Local Live. I'm Josh Fenton, CEO and co-founder. Couple quick updates. Number one is the rest of the schedule today, after we go to Bolzano, Italy, we'll have Dr. Fine at 12 noon with his updates. And secondly, we'll have Governor Gina Raimondo with her press update at 1 o'clock. She is supposed to talk about what phase 2 is going to look at. Yesterday, there's a couple pieces on Go Local this morning to take a look at. One is an opinion piece written by a restaurant worker who really objected to the governor's discussion on Thursday relative to the elimination of a large number of service jobs and how she took umbrage at the governor's tone. A very interesting piece. I would say it is the definition of gone viral. It is brought in tens of thousands of reads over the last 12, 14 hours. And secondly, the governor said Rhode Island is doing better than most states. We took a look at that claim. We could not find numbers consistent with that, both on an economic standpoint and on a health standpoint. Rhode Island ranks now 7th in number of deaths per capita in the United States and 4th in number of cases per capita. And obviously Rhode Island's unemployment is amongst the worst in the country. With all that said, take a look at those two pieces. We'll hear more from the governor at 1 o'clock. Now, let's go to Bolzano, Italy, and Rebecca Couto da Silva. Rebecca, how are you today?
Hi, Josh. Thanks. I'm very well. How are you doing?
We're great. It's a beautiful day. We're going into a 3-day weekend. Hopefully everybody will stay nice and safe. Give us the latest updates as Italy has begun to open up and take back some of the lockdown.
So we were allowed to do a lot of things as of May 8th / May 11th, but a lot of businesses weren't really ready. So yes, restaurants can be open, but there has to be this level of having masks and gloves and distance, et cetera, et cetera. So instead of opening, a lot of places, especially in the village where I am, stayed closed. So I saw yesterday that the local pizzeria put their tables out. And it's just sort of nice to see people able to sort of resume life. And of course, we're all here with fingers crossed, hoping that this resumption is a safe thing.
Have you forayed into eating out, either in I take it it's only open for outdoor seating, but have you gone out and eaten at any of the restaurants?
I have not. There's a lot of, Italy's got this walk-up cafe culture, and now we're not allowed to drink at the bar, but there are tables outside that we can drink at. As much as I want a cappuccino, I haven't gone out yet for one. I kind of don't want to be in a mask after drinking a coffee far from home. It's just one of those things where, yeah, I guess get some gum or something, but it just feels like I don't want that.
You don't want to suffer through your own coffee breath, I guess. That
right.
Would be
That's a home thing right now.
Yeah.
And so, no, I haven't yet. This local pizzeria being open with the outdoor tables, I might go out. I'm not sure, haven't decided. If I were to want to go out, I'd probably have to book for next Tuesday at this point, I'm guessing. I believe there is inside seating. It just has to be with the distancing, and you have to wear your mask until you're at the table, that kind of thing. But on a day like today, I don't see why anyone would want to go in and sit down.
Yeah, in Rhode Island, it's different in each state, but in Rhode Island, it's only outdoor seating for the time being. Reports are mixed as to how well the restaurants who have reopened are doing. Some have attracted, you have to get a reservation as well, you can't walk up. And some have done okay, others less so. So I think the consumer has their own concerns about potential contamination and are going to wait it out here. Talk about in Italy what the tone and the tenor is of Italians in seeing the economy just begin to open up. There's some press reports that Italy's in a deep depression Is this reopening helping both from a spirit standpoint and an economic standpoint?
Yeah, I think that it's hard to say because there's a sense that yes, everyone in Italy we're all one at this point, but then we're not, because not everybody lived that life that people in northern Italy lived, where people just basically, 700 people disappeared overnight. So I think that there's a different kind of trauma for people who live in pretty much the Milan area and those hard-hit towns near Milan in Lombardy and the rest of Italy. So here, where I am, people are really hopeful. People really want that Austrian-German border to open for tourism. We'll see what happens. Austria is pretty firm that they're not going to open it at this time. And I think people are hopeful. People here are really enjoying getting to be out. You see all the tables are packed at the pubs and the bars. And as you probably know, in Italy, a bar in the U.S. has a sort of very alcohol connotation, but in Italy, it's pretty much any drink that gets served to you. So
Right.
Coffee, I'm going to go to the bar and have coffee. I'm going to take my young child to the bar. And it's like, yeah, that's cool.
Do you get a sense that Italians are feeling more comfortable with the virus, or are they still diligent in their precautions?
Oh, it's hard not to be diligent. The people who work, the people who run establishments are responsible for enforcing these rules. So, for example, my friend went to a mall the other day and she got her temperature taken twice with that touchless screener. So she got her temperature taken twice. When you walk into a supermarket here, for example, they give you a set of disposable plastic gloves. You're not allowed in if you're not wearing a mask. So these gloves are just truly awful because in Italy, you actually have to weigh and tag your own produce.
Oh, yeah.
And and so the gloves actually, they're all built the same. So the ink is on the bottom of the left hand. So when you put your tag on, it smudges the barcode. Like when you put your thumb over the tag to smooth it down. It's just, these little things where it's like, it makes shopping take so much longer. Imagine opening a produce bag with bags on your hands.
Germany has announced, listen, everybody should go to Italy for vacation this summer. Is that a little EU politics, or does Merkel believe that Italy is now safe?
I hope that it's a bit of help from Germany. I think the issue right now is Austria, because I don't believe that they've opened up the border. So good luck driving down. It's only like maybe 3 hours, 3.5. No, I would say it's 3 hours to the German border, maybe 3.5 to Munich from here. It's really not far, but most of that time would be spent in Austria. Yeah. I would love that. Italy would love it. There are places. Obviously here is native German speaking, but there are places where the second language on the menu is German. So a beach town called Lido di Jesolo near Venice, or in Venice. So yeah, that would be fantastic. Welcome, welcome Germans, welcome. But one thing is interesting. I was talking to a friend the other day. She was supposed to visit me on April 28th. Now it's scheduled for June 28th. And one sense that I do get, she's living in the US, and one sense I do get is that people, like, if a country hasn't put its people through lockdown, there's a skepticism about letting them in. So we've done a lot of work to not be where we were in, completely locked inside in April. And we don't want to be locked inside in August and September again. So it's going to be very interesting to see what the policy is on something like Americans, right? So some Americans have been diligently locked down for a long time. Texas, and I guess it was Georgia, are just no, we're reopened. We've got precautions, but we're reopened. So I'll be really interested to see what happens with the non-EU whether they're allowed to come in or not, because on one hand, yes, we want the tourists. On the other hand, it's like we did the work to slow this down and to keep it as much off our streets as we can. So let's make sure that we don't hit ourselves with the second wave just by welcoming tourists in August.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's going to be a complicated factor just in the U.S. with tourists traveling from state to state. And some states have been very vigilant and others not so much at all. Talk a little bit, there's been a fair amount of press about the Mafia and their ability to take advantage of this pandemic and profit from it. Have you seen some of the news reports, and what's the sense there in Italy?
Yeah, there's concern. So I believe the government is rolling out another round of bonuses and benefits soon. Definitely everyone's worried about the South. Everyone's hoping that in the South that they're able to not slip into the type of economy that's dominated by the Mafia, but we'll see.
They're a creative bunch, and they know how to take advantage of a good crisis. What's the sense in the EU? I know there's been a lot of friction between Italy and the rest of the European Union. Has that begun to subside, or is that still at a high friction level?
Yeah, I think that with this idea that Italy will open its borders again, please let me down. Well, there's my daughter, right there.
Welcome.
Hey, come here.
There she is.
Yeah.
No, I don't. No.
Stop, please. Yeah. So we're opening the border again on June 3rd to the rest of Europe, and so I think that any tensions with this idea that the border is going to open, I think people are calming down a little bit. So we'll see what happens there.
She has to be inspired by that famous BBC interview with the expert whose daughter and then baby came rolling into the screen. One of the all-time greatest videos of all time. So totally, she's welcomed anytime.
Thank you. Yeah, I think because the feed's not coming back, she was like, "Oh no, I'm not on. Don't worry." Oh my God, I'm actually on.
How is school?
She's doing great with her homeschooling. Things are going great with her. I have updates for you guys about serum testing and soccer. If
Yeah,
you're
please.
interested.
Absolutely, both of them.
Yeah, soccer first. They're going to have a meeting on the 28th of May. Players keep testing positive, and then the teams are saying, okay, the government says if one person tests positive, then everyone goes into quarantine, not just the other players, but the coaches, staff, everyone. And they want everyone on a team who's necessary for that team to practice to be isolated even from their own families. And the players and the people who work for the teams are just, no, that's way too restrictive. For example, if one player tests positive, that player goes into quarantine for 14 days. So there's no agreement about anything. So they're meeting on May 28th.
That'll be interesting because that may help set the tone around, obviously, the rest of Europe. I know German soccer came back, and so far so good. I think the last weekend was their first weekend back. So that'll be interesting to see, and whether or not American sports teams who are contemplating playing again will pick up some of that learning from Germany and from Italy. Talk about the testing.
Yeah, so we got, there's serum testing available here now, which would seem like, okay, yes, let's do it. Let's jump on it. And so I was reading the article about it, and you have to go get a prescription from your doctor for it, which means for me, I pay privately, so I'd have to pay something like €50. And then I think other people would have to perhaps pay a smaller copay. And then you would have to go to a private clinic and get the test, so then you're paying again. And then the test results get shared with the government. And if you test positive, you go into 14-day quarantine with monitoring. And so it was one of those things where we think of serum testing as maybe possibly this sort of immunity card. And here
Right.
it was like, nope. If you do all of the, if you go to see your doctor, which is not the easiest thing to do now, that really hasn't opened up again. You go to see your doctor, you get the prescription, you go get the test done, and then you're locked down for 14 days, even if a swab test were to demonstrate that you're not contagious in the sense that people think you're contagious in terms of breathing it out, then it's one of those things where it's like, why would anyone do it? And it's actually data that if it were anonymized, if these data were anonymized, people, I think that the country would benefit. The country would benefit from knowing what percentage of people have been infected or in contact with it. And it's like, why would anyone do this?
Yeah, that one seems a little illogical, that you'd need to go to the doctor to then go get the test. That seems like an unnecessary step. Maybe call your doctor, but if you're not symptomatic, why would you need to do that? It doesn't really, a little less logical. Anything else? We always give you the last word. What do Americans need to know?
I think I might have alluded to this or said this last week, but it's really, opening up again is really not going back to what it was before. It's hard. It's still stressful. This whole, I know you guys don't necessarily have the plastic gloves on for the grocery shopping, but it's, it's work, it's stress. You don't want to get yelled at by a store employee. You don't want to get ticketed. And it's a challenge. And it's also one of those things where you're out there, and if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, and then you see someone with a homemade lace mask, and you're like, look at them like, really? But I think one thing that is important is kind of, live and let live, protect yourself, protect others. And it's important. I've seen people fighting in the street. Don't get that close. Don't do this. Don't do that. I hope everyone.
It's a stressful situation.
Yeah.
Listen, be safe. Thank your daughter for joining us this week as a special guest star.
Yes.
And we appreciate it. For everyone else, 2 o'clock, Dr. Michael Fine, 1 o'clock, Governor Gina Raimondo with her press briefing. Everyone, please stay safe.